Today on the virtual sauna bench, we sauna talk with Jackie from Cedar Grove Saunas in northern Maine. Jackie is just back from her 6-week sauna pilgrimage to 4 countries in northern Europe. Jackie has built all her own saunas and is 4 years into hosting guests traveling far and wide to her facility, Cedar Grove Saunas. We are kindred spirits of good heat. We share an interest and passion towards the Latvian Pirtus tradition, spearheaded by Biruté and Rimus from the Lithuanian Bath Academy. Are you interested in bringing plants and herbs into your sauna practice? Jackie helps us better understand this tradition. Sauna in nature is bigger than all of us, and thanks to Jackie, we get a clear vision of this through her voice and values of how she's bringing this spirit forward. So bonus, we begin this podcast with a few brief words from my sauna bench last night. Friends and neighbors from ages 8 to 84 share a couple of thoughts to warm your sauna spirit. So without further ado, I would like to invite you to listen to our sauna talk with Jackie from Cedar Grove Sauna.
Hi, I'm Forrest, and I've been taking saunas for 23-ish years, and my favorite thing about the sauna is how well it complements my exercise routine.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm 81 years old, and what I really like about sauna, I've been taking them for 75 years, and how it's not age related. Everybody seems to be the same age when you're in the sauna.
Your name? My name's Alaric. I've been taking sauna for 2 years, and I like about the sauna is it makes me feel loose, and everybody's invited.
My name is Rachel. I'm 39 years old. I've been taking a sauna for most of my life, and I just really enjoy the community and how good it makes me feel and how much I can detox and feel like my skin, everything feels so clean after.
My name's Glenn, and I just turned 60. I've been sauning for over half my life. And I like many things about sauna, and one of them is this moment here. We get to hang out, and we're all one in sauna. And this is evidence of it. As Forrest throws water on the rocks and makes steam. So Jackie, you're in Maine right now, right?
That's right.
And how long have you been back? Yeah, how long has it been since you've been back?
I think a week and a half.
A week and a half. So it's still fresh. I mean, you're still maybe a little jet lagged or not so much?
Not at all, no.
Yeah. Should we dive right in? And I'm just so excited to chat with you. I remember when I got back from a sauna tour, I immediately went to sauna and was able to just talk it out and kind of like deprogram myself a little bit. So I'm hoping we can do that with you on this beautiful summer morning.
Yeah, I'd love to talk some of it out.
All right. Well, cool. So, welcome to Sauna Talk. I mean, this is just a pleasure of mine. I mean, you've been Cedar Grove Sauna in Maine. You could tell us a little bit about that, maybe if it's okay to start. And I'm happy to say that you're the recipient of a Public Sauna of the Month award on the Sauna Times Sauna Map. And it's just been such a pleasure to follow along your development with this sauna business that you've really made a full-time thing for yourself. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. I'll first just say that I listened to Sauna Times when I was building my business 4 years ago. And you and your interviews and your website were a huge source of inspiration. And at the time, it was one of the only places on the internet where I could find any good information. Now I have connections to people, so I can ask people questions as well. But yeah, your website was fantastic. So Cedar Grove Sauna was started, I guess, in 2020, and it's grown a lot over the last few years. But we have two saunas, wood-fired, where I live in Montville, Maine, which is a rural town. There's only 1,000 people who live there. And I also have a mobile sauna and a horse trailer, and I've built all of the saunas myself. And so it's a mix of private rentals and then public sauna times as well. And so we're
Beautiful.
open only during the cold months. And so I was able to leave and do the 6-week sauna tour without worrying about business.
Operating in a small town like you do, how from a business perspective, how do you draw guests, for butts on the bench, given that your population is so small around you?
People come from a ways. I have people who are my next door neighbor from down the road who come, but people also drive from the more populated parts of the state. So in Maine, most of the people live in the southern part of the state near Portland. And that's about an hour and 45-minute drive. And it's not uncommon for about a third of our guests to come from there. Also, living in a rural state, you have personal connections everywhere, and driving is unfortunately just part of it. And so people don't hesitate about going far. And I started in 2020 during the pandemic, so there wasn't really anything else happening. People weren't going out to restaurants, and so it became the popular date night location. So it just organically grew from there.
Does that put a lot of pressure on you when guests show up in their vehicle and they've driven 3.5 hours? Or how far is Portland, the biggest city in Maine?
It's just under 2 hours.
Oh.
People do come from further away. People come from Massachusetts. There aren't too many public saunas except for a couple like Russian banyas in the Boston area.
Yeah. Does that give you some pressure to figure the people came a long way? That's a commitment for them.
I know it's good. They'll have a great time.
Right on. Hey, how did we've met, right? Like you came to Minnesota? You want to talk a little bit about that?
I've never been.
Oh, you never
No.
been? Okay, you haven't
No.
been to Minnesota. So where did the idea of a sauna, doing the sauna, like what was the impetus, the early seeds to do Cedar Grove Sauna? Where did it come from?
Yeah, in about maybe 2019, I somehow heard about a mobile sauna business on the West Coast. I honestly don't even remember who it was. And I just thought, well, we have ocean here in Maine. I don't know why that's not happening yet. I'll make it happen. And I had been sauning quite regularly for about 7 or 8 years since then. And so I knew I loved it, and I knew that it would really help people in Maine, especially in the winter. And so I made it happen.
Fabulous. So you've been back from your trip for about a week and a half, the Northern Europe tour. And I think in your words, there was this let the sauna spirits guide you. You bought a one-way ticket, is that right? And you went over there with minimal agenda. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I had a list of places that seemed interesting. I spent a couple hours on the internet just researching, and then over the last couple of years, I've accrued a database of what people have suggested who have come to the sauna, because I talk to thousands of people every single year who love sauna, and some of them travel around the world for it. So I had some ideas, but I had, aside from the first 10 days being in Lithuania, I didn't have an agenda.
And how long were you over there for, and what countries did you visit?
I was traveling for 6 weeks, and I was in Lithuania, Latvia, Finland, and Sweden as well.
And it was sauna centric, Jackie?
Yes, it was the number one reason. I explored other parts of the countries, but most days I was in a sauna for sometimes up to 12 hours a day. So it was sauna heavy.
Wow, we are kindred spirits. That's totally something I'd be doing. So I commend you for that. Let's talk about the Lithuanians, Biruté and Rimus. You hosted them in Maine, and we were together with them. They came to Minnesota after your time, their visit with you in Maine. They came to Minnesota for sauna days, so I know them quite well. What was it like being with them in their home turf? And please tell us a little bit about the levels of training and certification you embarked upon, and what they do, and how it fits with Cedar Grove.
Yeah, so back at the beginning of May, I hosted Remus and Biruté at my saunas in Maine, and they run the International Bath Academy out of Lithuania. And Lithuania has a really deep history of sauna. They call it Pirtus. I'm saying that totally wrong. But it's a fairly elaborate and structured sequence, and it might last 3 or 4 hours, and it involves a lot of plants, a lot of whisks, salts, honey, lots of other things.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I hosted them in May, and I knew that they were hosting what they call plants camp at the end of May. And I waited till they came to my sauna to make sure that I enjoyed learning from them in order to book my ticket to go out there. So that was the whole impetus for going. And so I was in plants camp, which was maybe 5 days long. And then I did 3 days of the level 2 training. And while I was doing those during the day, in the evening, they were hosting what they call master classes. So everybody who's passed level 2 training is invited to go to the master classes. So that's a mix of the international students. And then they also have kind of a sister school for Lithuanian students. So Lithuanians would come to those master classes. And then a couple days after the training, I did the level 2 test, which I didn't feel totally prepared for, because it was all very fresh, and it's a very embodied thing, and it's very intense. You're in the heat and the steam, moving and doing treatments to somebody's body, and so you have to be really careful. And so I did that test with 2 Lithuanian students, and we all passed, which was excellent.
To
Yeah.
interject, it is quite a challenge. I mean, for many of us that know sauna, it's one thing to go onto the bench and chill, and well, the opposite of chill and heat, I guess you could say, and be sitting and not moving. And then, the time to leave the hot room. I love the line is when the idea of an ice cold lake plunge is the best idea you've ever heard. I mean, that's quite a very simple linear process to listen to your body and say, okay, I've had enough. But you layer on this treatment plan where you're the administrator, and you're, like you referenced, you're moving a lot, and it's a different level of sweat and interaction with the heat. So it's like you're a construction worker in a way, like working in some intense environment. Was that unexpected for you, or did they teach you how to prepare for administering this treatment and movement in the heat?
Yeah, it was totally expected that it would be hard, and it was hard. But something they teach you and that you're actually tested on in the level 2 test is how to take care of your own body. And so remembering to always slow down and pour water on your head and take breaks, and what you can do to take care of the people in the sauna while you're taking care of yourself. And one thing that Biruté taught me that I loved was, like, if you feel like you need a break, you tell your people, oh, I need to go get this really special plant outside for you. And you go out and you jump in the lake, and then on your way back, you grab the plant. So you make them think this is about you, but it's really,
Oh, that's
it's about
brilliant.
taking
That's
care of
beautiful.
yourself.
That's universality. Yeah, Alex from B Saunas taught me something really similar. I've caught him actually leaving the hot room just completely wiped out, and that's where a cold plunge is so critical, because you can immerse your body and just like get rid of some of that intense heat that's been absorbed into your system. So that's a nice little tip. And back to Biruté a little bit. It was really awesome. She was on a quest to find balsam. Balsam is a special tree, and a plant in the I guess what would you call that? Like in the pine family.
Boreal forests. Yeah.
Yeah. And up at our cabin here in northern Minnesota, balsam is like it's not a revered species at all. As a matter of fact, a lot of people will clear balsam off their land because they want the whites and the red pines to grow, and balsam's kind of considered invasive in some respects, but it's beautiful. And after sauna days with Biruté, I now clip a fresh branch of balsam and always hang it in my hot room. I used to make balsam tea on Lake Superior. So that's a plant or a tree that means a lot to me in a positive way. Tell me a couple of plants or tree branch things that you've experienced in Lithuania that now are part of what you're doing in Maine.
Yeah, the interesting thing I experienced from Lithuania all the way up to Lapland and Finland was that while the individual species of trees might be different, the types of trees are very similar to here in Maine. Because in Maine, we are at the northern range of like deciduous hardwood forests, and at the southern range of the boreal forests that extend into Canada that you also have in Minnesota. And so let's see. We used oak. Something that was really fascinating to me, Biruté very generously took me on a day tour of sauna stuff after the course, and she took me to her garden where she has saunas, and she has, I don't know, maybe like 100 different plants, many trees that she has planted from Lithuania, but also from around the world. I won't tell you how she necessarily got the seeds from country to country, but she had a lot of our trees. And so they call, Canadian oak would be like our northern red oak. They use linden quite a bit as well. And it was lilac season while I was there, and it was lilac season as I was traveling north with the bloom. And so if you do summer saunas, you really incorporate like what's in bloom, what's prime at that time. And so there are a lot of flowers that we used. And so coming to Maine, I've been making whisks the last week and a half because this is the best time of year to do it before they set seed. And I've been using red oak, sugar maple, white birch, paper birch, and then I was just making some gray birch whisks yesterday, which I don't think are going to be great because they're really twiggy, but I'm trying it out. And so something that Rimus and Biruté teach us is like, this is the Lithuanian tradition, and these are the reasons why we do it, but you have your plants and you have your people. And so go home and figure out what makes sense for you.
That's beautiful. Did you notice any particular difference between sauna cultures in the 4 different countries? I think it was 4 that you had been to, and if so, lay out a few from an American perspective.
Yeah, I have found that all countries have lots of different cultures and subcultures. And so in Lithuania, I was really steeped in this traditional Pirtus culture of doing the plant rituals in sauna, which has a lot of layers of spirituality and history and folk medicine and paganism as well. Lithuanians are really proud of the fact that they were the last strictly pagan country in Europe. And I experienced some of that culture in Latvia as well in a couple of private saunas, and I spent some time at a Russian banya in Latvia for a couple days with a woman. And I also spent time like at a public Russian banya and a public Ukrainian banya in Latvia. And so those are like large facilities. You can find some of them in North America as well. And their shower room is so big, and you'll go in there and it's divided typically men's and women's, and there'll be people doing crazy treatments to their skin, putting who knows what on their skin and showering off and spending 3, 4, 5 hours with their people in the sauna. And most sauna businesses have restaurants as well, and so you can get food delivered to the changing areas. So that was quite a pleasure to sit in a towel and eat some food. And in Finland, I experienced quite a range of sauna cultures as well. I experienced what I was describing in Lithuania, kind of folk art, folk medicine, lots of plants, lots of singing spells. And then a lot of their public saunas are more like you go out after work with your pals and drink some beer. And I also got to experience private saunas that were more family saunas. So people ranging from 2 years old to 99 years old, and just being really comfortable and nurturing. But I was impressed by the range and how it's all somewhat similar in that you have a sauna, but what you do in it differs. But it was really beautiful, and everyone's very proud of their culture. And I met a lot of people who are insistent that they're doing the right thing, their people are doing the right thing, and everything else is wrong. And I got to meet Mikko Aland one day, and I talked to him about this because, of course, he knows about a lot of cultures, and he said, it's all beautiful. As long as you're with people, you're having a good time. It doesn't matter how crappy the sauna is. It's just being together. And that's kind of the universal language that I saw in all the saunas.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's Mikhail's line where he says, the best sauna is the one that gets used, and yeah, a bit of a rabbit hole. We can get really wrapped up in the proper construction and all of this noise about what is good sauna construction and bad sauna construction. And then the parallel to that is, you must be in the hot room for 18 minutes. Otherwise your brown fat isn't activated. And it's a little bit of a shame, but this is kind of America. And this is what is part of our thing, is we're always trying to optimize stuff, but I think what you've touched upon is a beautiful example of, the culture that works for you, or the style that works for you is what is right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it can be really simple. It doesn't have to be so complicated.
Amen. Well said. Love that. Anything you were surprised by with your journey into the Nordic countries in sauna, getting into the depths of sauna in other countries?
One thing that I was surprised by is nudity. I had thought that people were naked everywhere. And people who come to my saunas, to the saunas at my house, you're allowed to be naked. And in my public saunas, you're allowed to be naked as well. But I do this thing where I ask people before they come to say whether or not they're comfortable with nudity. And if anyone's not comfortable, then everyone wears a bathing suit. And that's the sauna culture I guess I shouldn't say grew up in, but I guess I've been growing up the last 10 years in sauna culture. And so to go there and realize that if it's mixed, if it's all genders in a sauna, you're definitely wearing a bathing suit. And it's only naked if you're separated. And I got to ask a lot of people, if you're not in a public sauna and you're just in a private sauna at the lake or something, are you naked? And they said, if you're just with your family, yes. If you're with a bunch of friends and there is more than a couple beers involved, yes, you might be naked, but otherwise you're wearing a bathing suit. So that was surprising to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a very broad stroke of things, in Germany is public mixed gender nudity. That surprised the heck out of me to know it to that level, especially in large public saunas. It's forbidden to wear bathing suits. It's mainly for hygienic reasons and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, in a structured culture like that we think of as Germany, it's interesting that the rules are bent toward the more, you could say, free spirit or liberal side of things of nudity, right? But yeah, I noticed that as well in the Nordic countries. They poke fun at us in America. Well, Britain is all clothes all the time, kind of thing. In my experience, in America is a lot of that style as well. But yeah, I guess in a quick rule of thumb there is if it's in Finland, as I remember, as I know it and I've experienced, and there's that great film, Men's Turn. So the women generally will sauna first, and then the men's turn is second. and that practice outside of families is common, and that's how they maintain some sort of nudity with men second, women first. So yeah, so that is a surprising thing. I think it's changing a little bit, especially with the rebirth of this the public sauna kind of a thing. Like if you go to Lolu in Helsinki, I mean, there's no nudity, right? So
Not
yeah.
allowed.
Yeah, right on. So what was so inspiring that you will bring back to your sauna in Maine, to Cedar Grove? What you mentioned, I think, the plant treatments, is that, would that be about the main thing, or are there any other things that you're bringing back to Cedar Grove from your trip?
Well, I went there with several questions. One goal was learning more about the Lithuanian Pirtus tradition. Another was just to understand some design elements, because I've built 3 saunas, and I'm quite certain that I'm going to build 3 more, and maybe more and more. And I wanted some inspiration, and something that's really important to me about my saunas and the experience that I'm creating is that nature is at the forefront. And so my saunas are like individual cabin saunas, and you go outside and you are just in it. And I wanted to understand how people in those countries created those environments. And so there was a lot to learn in that regard, both in rural saunas in nature, but also in urban saunas, just from anything from like how you design the seating so that people feel comfortable, so that when you're going to the ice hole in the water, not everybody is seated so they're pointed staring at you, like making more of a dispersed area. So there are a lot of design elements like that. But I think the one thing that I'm really fired up about isn't design at all. It's just how accessible and affordable sauna is. As you know, you go to a public sauna, it's anywhere from like €6 to like maybe €25 for a fancy tourist sauna. It can be a lot more if you really go to a fancy tourist sauna. But I met a lot of people who had going to sauna as like an everyday thing in their lives. And a lot of people, of course, have private saunas, but there's something really special about going to a public sauna and meeting people, meeting your friends every day at the same time after work. And something that I've seen in North America is that it's a fairly new, I guess it's a new business idea. And sauna culture, while it's been here for a long time, has really grown a lot in the last few years. And it seems like businesses make it special. They make it something that's like fancy, that you deserve as a reward. And what I really want to bring back is how to create a situation in which it's affordable and something that's within people's day-to-day life. And so figuring out how to build a business around maybe more people for less money, so that people have that experience and that opportunity to come more frequently, so that it's accessible.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. I noticed that part of the affordability could be one of 2 things. Number one is food and beverage as a sort of an annex to that. The Russian banyas, like I interviewed Chicago Sweat Lodge, Bill Trotter, the general manager at the time, and he pulled me aside off mic and he said, if we weren't serving, beer and having our borscht soup and our, if we weren't doing food and beverage, this thing would not sustain itself. And so there's that. And the other bit is like this idea of subsidizing, and I referenced Germany before, but there are these municipal bathhouses or saunas that are part of the community, and so some tax dollars go toward them. The employees are city employees or municipal employees, and so I think that's a huge difference between America and Europe in general, is that there's 2 different ways to I guess you could say keep it affordable. Did you notice that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Several people told me this isn't a sauna business, it's a restaurant business with a sauna. And that was so clear to me as well. And I think beer drinking specifically subsidizes so many saunas. And I think that's a bit of a shock to maybe people in North America, that beer is so much part of a sauna culture. And I would be very excited to work with some people, and I know that this is happening in Minnesota, to work with municipalities to figure out how to permit permanent public saunas that are owned by the municipality or a nonprofit, which is how it seems to work so often in Finland. To have, so, in Maine, some of the most beautiful waterfront places are publicly owned or they're privately owned, and there's a mansion on it. And there's presently no opportunity to create the same experience that I experienced in Finland in Maine. And so figuring out how to work from within a municipality to provide that. And I went to some volunteer saunas as well in Finland that were, I think, a really great model. And I know you have 612 in Minnesota.
Right on. Yeah, really well said. And I think that's the evolution that we can continue to work to advance. I will say this, in just a few years, I mean, when I built my first mobile sauna was in the early 2000s, and this is Minnesota, where people grew up with sauna and went to their grandparents' cabin and saunaed all the time, and a lot of Scandinavian and Northern Europe immigrants. So you'd like to think that in Minnesota there'd be an acceptance and a place for what I say as sauna in the public domain, but boy, what headwinds there was back in the time. But I think it's almost a generation has passed now since those early days of pioneering. And you could kind of credit this whole Huberman brown fat, health benefit, cold plunge world where I think the folks that kind of control the purse strings of municipal, expenditures are seeing this contrast therapy in a much different way. We were fringe as recently as 10 years ago, but I think now there's this real mainstream acceptance of this practice as what it is something really beautiful and wholesome and helpful and therapeutic and community-based. So just a diatribe to say, I think we're reaching a tipping point of accessibility and acceptability of sauna in America.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I look to a lot of sauna businesses in North America, and there's a lot that are mobile, that are operating under the model of like dropping it off in somebody's driveway and picking it up a couple days later, or doing like a pop-up and having 6 slots open on a day. And there's so much work involved, as you know, in moving a sauna. And I am very fortunate in that I have a stationary location, so I can be open more hours and serve more people. And I think when people are starting sauna businesses, it's good. It would be good to figure out what your goals are in terms of, is it one of your main values to figure out how to serve more people, or is this set up only for 2 days a week, and and be informed about that before you get started.
Yeah, and one of the sobering realities is a saunapreneur to me, and I know what the P&L and the profit models and all of that. I know this very well. And it's sort of like this is not a get rich plan here. It reminds me of, say, yoga instructors. I mean, this is a passion movement, right? And we can create a business of equity and profitability. But hey, if you want to make a ton of money, I think getting into software or something else is probably more of a path. Not to say that this can't be a success, but how we measure success sometimes isn't, in the profit and loss statement of this operation. Is my experience, being on the board of 612 and helping other saunapreneurs. We have to go into this with realistic expectations of the operation model.
Absolutely. Yeah. And coming back from Finland, I can't tell you how many ideas I have that I'd love to implement. And it might take a lifetime to make all of those happen. But I started the business with one sauna, and it actually wasn't even mine. It was my partner's previous partner that was still on our land. And I got permission from her. So that was like my first loan. That was my only loan that I've gotten. And so realizing that you have to start somewhere and where it takes you.
Beautiful, really well said. Yeah, I could get into the weeds about building, and I really want to do that with you about you and I share many things as it relates to sauna specifically, and building with our own hands. The fact that you've crafted your own saunas to me is such a special thing. I consult with a lot of different people, and a model that I'm evolving with NHL hockey players specifically is getting them engaged to build their own saunas instead of just writing a check. And I joke with one. I said, a sauna bench feels that much better when you know you were the one that built it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, how would you respond to that? I mean, is it like being a chef that cooks their own meal, or when you step into the sauna that you actually physically built yourself, what kind of meaning does that give you?
I'm really proud. When I started, I didn't know how to do almost anything. I had really basic carpentry skills, and if something broke, I would maybe be at a loss as to how to fix it. And now I not only know how to build it, but I know how to fix everything too. And I understand how everything works. And it can be, I talk with a lot of people about how it's actually hard to relax in your own sauna if it's your business. Maybe if it's just your
Mhm.
pleasure sauna, great. But I go in there and I see like all the little things that maybe I never finish that nobody is ever going to see. And the satisfaction is when all those things are finished. And yeah, I feel proud. I'll just leave it at
Yeah,
that.
well, you should. It's beautiful work you're doing out there. And you've built a mobile sauna that resides on the property. Is that right, or are they all fixed? Like,
The mobile sauna moves, and my model is that I have, I think, 5 locations I bring it to over the course of the winter. And so
mhm.
um, it might be at a location for just 2 days or for 4 weeks. And so all the spots are places where it's safe to leave it. And I go and live kind of on site with the mobile sauna. So I really like traveling, and so I've I've woven that into the lifestyle that I've created. Because if you create your own business, you might as well make it support yourself.
Fantastic. If you could have a mobile sauna, which you do, and if you could bring your mobile sauna anywhere in the world, where would you like to go and enjoy a sauna session?
Um, I think back to when I was building my mobile sauna and listening to your podcasts and hearing that question and just being like, huh, where would I bring it? And the honest answer is I'm bringing it to the places that I would want to the beaches, to the oyster farm, to the harbors. Not necessarily secluded beaches, but like places where people can see that this sort of lifestyle exists. And it's amazing to interact with people who have no idea what sauna is, to jump out of the sauna in the middle of the winter and run into the ocean. So
Yeah,
I would
beautiful.
bring it to the coast of Maine.
Yeah, right on. And you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. If you could sauna with anybody in the world, dead or alive, past, present, who's the first person that comes to mind for you?
I think right now, today, hearing that question, I would say all the people I got to meet in my travels, they're all invited to come stay with me and visit my saunas here in Maine. And my contacts when I was traveling were so generous with me, and I was really just like handed from person to person in all those countries. And I'd love to reciprocate and show those people around, and so share my bit of sauna culture with them. So all my pals,
Beautiful.
the
Yeah.
Baltic.
It's a tricky question, Jackie. You and I, we sauna like crazy. I mean, but when you wake up and you know it's going to be a sauna day, from that moment to the moment you go to bed at night after sauna, like, is there a moment, and it may change from session to session, but is there a moment you particularly revere in the process of sauna? Like, and what is that? What if you had to answer? What is the magic moment for you in a sauna session? Either the planning, the doing, the relaxing after. What comes to mind for you there?
Yeah, it's an interesting question for me because it's my job. I do it many days a week and I love it. I love that what I do requires me to move my body. I love bending over to pick up firewood. I love splitting wood. I love squatting next to the stove. I love cleaning the benches. It's really important to me that for however long I'm running this business, I am the one who is doing those things. And so all of it. And I would say about 3 times a year, I come home from running the mobile sauna, and some of my staff are at the house taking care of the sauna, and they know I'm coming, and they prepare everything for me. And I get to be my own customer. I get to show up, and there's water in the tub, there's water in a bucket in the sauna. It's hot. There's towels ready for me. That is such a gift to show up to my own sauna and have everything perfect for me. So thanks
Thank
to my
you.
staff for that.
What a beautiful job. Jackie, thanks so much for being a guest to Sauna Talk. Any final words?
Thank you, Glenn, for just continuing to inspire hundreds and thousands of people to try out sauna.
It's my pleasure. Kindred spirits. Jackie, Cedar Grove Sauna, thank you again for being a part.
Thank you.